Chair, and we'd like to welcome the new Secretary as well to the Secretariat. We have quite a lot of comments, but we'll just stick to some of our general comments. And most of these will go into our written submission. The chasms of inequalities within and between countries of the global south and global north are deepening and widening drastically. We are globally confronted with more and more violent conflicts and wars. More and more people are living in poverty and going hungry. Against this backdrop, we have to ask ourselves, what is our ambition for this process? Who are these recommendations really for? We call for a process that is truly grounded in the realities of peoples, constituencies, and grassroots communities who are experiencing the impacts of an unequal world on a daily basis. We, as the CSIPM, reconfirm our appreciation and the relevance of the policy convergence process, reducing inequalities for food security and nutrition. And our constituencies see this as a prerequisite for inclusive, participatory, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food system. As the largest international space of social movements and civil society organizations working to eradicate food insecurity and malnutrition, we prioritize those organizations, movements of people through our constituencies, including indigenous peoples, peasants, women, and diverse genders, as the most affected by food insecurity and malnutrition. We also include those in protracted crises, conflict and war zones like Gaza, Sudan, Yemen, Congo, and Haiti. The CSIPM explicitly welcomed the scope of the process as well as the extensive analysis provided by the HLPE, especially, among others, the deep analysis of systemic drivers of discrimination and power imbalances that lead to inequalities affecting food security and nutrition outcomes. We welcome that zero draft is mentioning power imbalances leading to inequalities in food systems, albeit guidance on how to transform these imbalances is missing. We welcome that the zero draft is following the structure of the HLPE, but unfortunately the multi-dimensional framework has not been applied throughout the document. In general, the zero draft of the CFS policy recommendations on reducing inequalities for food security and nutrition does not fully reflect the envisaged level of ambition. We would like to emphasize that in reference to the need to transform current systems of trade, investment, and debt governance and subsidies related to food security and nutrition are important because it is the first time that we are including this in a policy document, and we should recognize the difference between the committee taking decisions on issues on which other international spaces are the mandated decision-making spaces, like, for instance, debt relief and trade, and the committee provided input on the implications of these issues regarding food security and nutrition, which can then be taken into account in decision-making in other spaces. The mention of agroecological and other innovative approaches under innovations into value chains is not understandable. Rather, the potential of agroecology for reducing inequalities as presented in the HLP should be highlighted in the policy recommendation. The draft also doesn't show the connection between power structures and inequalities. It lacks the understanding that addressing inequalities would require an effective confrontation with power structures as an essential prerequisite for substantial change. Substantial change requires understanding and addressing these systemic drivers and root causes of inequity in context. Understanding inequity and inequality involves recognizing who is marginalized from food and nutrition opportunities, as well as clearly identifying how and why. So we need to look at race, caste, age, gender, disability and ability, indigeneity, ethnicity. We need a consistent application of human rights perspective and the associated internationally agreed human rights language, which is missing. An example of this is the need to make the distinction between duty bearers and rights holders. The entire document should be reviewed and revised to include this aspect. So far, the recommendations do not address specific stakeholders or actors, and we need to include UNDRIP, and other internationally recognized UNGA resolutions and documents. Thank you.